Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Vanessa Good from SCAPE, Vanessa Good, Business Development Manager at SCAPE. We are one of the UK's leading public sector procurement specialists. And through our suite of compliant frameworks, we help the public sector organisations accelerate project delivery, saving them time, reducing risk, and enabling clients to embed social value and deliver with confidence. This year is particularly significant for us because we celebrate 20-year anniversary of working with the public sector. So if you get a chance, please do look at the website and see what we've been up to and how we've supported clients over that 20-year period. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to hand over to Laura Wyatt, Director at Cavendish, who's going to host the panel.
Lovely. Hello and welcome everybody. Nice to see so many of you here. So, I'm Laura Wyatt, Director at Cavendish. I've been working in the Central South region for 15 plus years, and I'm really pleased to be here today to be able to champion all the fantastic opportunities that this region has to offer. So a bit of a headline. So the Central South offers a compelling mix of strategic locations, strong connectivity, sector strength, investment opportunity and quality of life. It really is a true global gateway, anchored by major ports and airports with international connections from Southampton and Portsmouth to Europe and beyond. The Solent Freeport builds on that strength, creating a platform to transform the regional economy. Combined with our proximity to London, offering access to major markets but at low operating costs, the region supports a diverse cluster economy, from aerospace and defence to marine, digital and life sciences. And then there is the lifestyle offer, coastal living, vibrant cities, 2 national parks and a quality of place that really helps our businesses to attract and retain its talent. And I think we're going to highlight that in a quick video.
The Central South is a great place to invest because it has such a diversity of industry and opportunity.
We're so connected from the South Coast up to London. We've got great public-private partnerships, businesses working together to really enhance the economy locally and make it an attractive place for development, for people to live, learn, work and play.
Every business depends on its team. And the best thing about this part of the world and why I want to invest here is you've got people who love living here. And a happy team makes for a happy business.
It's exciting times. We've maybe been a little left behind, but we're certainly on the catch-up now.
Central South is a great place to invest because we are one of the few places around the UK that do have a free port. There are tax sites around Portsmouth and also at Southampton. You know, connectivity to the airport, through to London, to the ports. There are fantastic schools around here. All of that has the ability to attract new manufacturing, create jobs, you name it, we've got it here down in Central South.
Great, thank you. Our presence at Central South UK has been a collaboration of many local authorities and businesses across the region. And we're here today to discuss 3 core topics. So why Central South is important, where the development opportunities and assets are and what's coming through in the pipeline, and what do we as a region need to do next to really make sure we're represented on the national stage. So to help me explore this topic, I've got our panel here today. So we've got Gavin Hall from Savills. His team operate across the South Coast. John McConnell, Real Estate Director at AGS Airports, and that includes Southampton Airport. Sarah Longthorpe, am I doing it in the right order yet? Regen Director at Basingstoke and Dean Borough Council. Brian Johnson, Chair of the Solent Freeport, and Chris Fry, CEO of Kimbridge Estates, and they specialise in high-quality commercial properties across the South Coast. So a big welcome to our panel. And if you want to ask them any questions throughout this session, you can jump onto Slido. I'll try and multitask. It's Central South Discuss. So just before we get into the discussion, I think we've got one other quick video that I think really represents a great example or case study of some of the investment and projects that we're seeing in the region, and that's the Basingstoke Great Wolf Scheme. That's great, thank you. And Sarah, I'm sure a bit later on in the panel you can tell us a bit more about that and what that represents for the region. But if we get into the discussion now, when we look at Central South as one economic area, it really does have the scale and strength to compete with other UK major city regions. So I'd like to start off by asking each of our panellists, just in one quick sentence, what do you see as Central South's key advantage as an investment region? If we go down to Gavin, we'll start with you.
So I was going to say that over 20% of all FTSE 100 companies are based in the region, but that was already on the screen. So I think picking up on the fact that the water at Great Wolf is always 29 degrees, the Central South actually possesses the world's sunniest city. Oh, sorry, the UK's sunniest city. I won't say which one it is because I don't want to cause any competition, but we do have that claim to fame.
Okay, John.
I would say connectivity. I think of all our airports, it's the best connected airport in our group.
Lovely. Sarah?
I think for me, it's the place and the quality of life and how that contributes to sort of talent retention. I know sort of we've already mentioned that. So, and also the fact that every drop of Bombay sapphire worldwide is produced in Basingstoke and Dean.
Yeah,
so that's always my favourite stat to pull out.
Brian?
I'd like to pick on what Laura said about a gateway region. It sounds like a soundbite, but the reason we have a free port in our region was because of the element of being a gateway region, which actually means every job that's created in our region creates at least one other job in the wider UK. So, we're enabling growth across the whole country.
For me, the Central South is a concentrated zone of economic activity bounded by the South Coast as well as the South Downs and New Forest National Parks, which make it an amazing part of the UK to live and work.
Lovely, thank you. So I think next step is to just explore that in a bit more detail and see what's actually happening on the ground. Gavin, if we start with you, what are the market signals or the evidence that you're seeing that underpins the region as a leading growth region?
So I think the combination that Central South has in terms of scale, in terms of population and output, productivity. We're above the UK average for productivity, and also our urban labour markets. So we've got a huge, strong supply of graduates and existing employment as well. That gives us a really credible growth platform, not just something that's speculative, so something that we can really build on. And I think what we're finding in some of the evidence of that is in some of the cities, Portsmouth, for example, have got really good business startup rates, and not just startup, but they actually survive as well and continue. So it's that breadth of the ecosystem that we have that enables the business, the platforms to succeed.
Lovely, thanks, Gavin. And Chris, it'd be really interesting from your perspective as a developer, what it is about the region that gives you confidence that you can bring forward schemes here and create value?
Well, firstly, in the industrial logistics sector, it's about the skilled labour force, established manufacturing and defence industries, as well as a port-centric economy, are enduring drivers of demand which support new development. On the office side, key demand drivers are there's a really strong professional service industry, as well as the knowledge economies linked to the 6 universities in the region, which are those key demand drivers.
Lovely. And Sarah, if I come to you next, and I think this draws on the title of the session, which I think is really interesting. We're saying a national growth region, but hiding in plain sight. And I think that sort of draws to the fact that we're perhaps not as loud or as confident in shouting about some of the fantastic opportunities we've got here, unlike some of the other major city regions. What would you say from your perspective are the strengths that perhaps we are still underplaying, and how do we collectively go about addressing that?
So I think one of the key strengths we underplay is our connectivity. I think, we've highlighted sort of the ports, the airports, the M3 corridor. We are an incredibly connected and accessible region. So I think we sort of underplay that. It still needs investment, but, we are connected. And I think, just the collective marketing and place branding. I think Central South is obviously a really good example of that, where we all collaborate to showcase our region, and we all work really well together. But we do need that louder voice. We do attend events such as sort of MIPIN, sort of Expo and REiiF to raise that profile. Great brochure, Prosper, which kind of, again, pulls everything together. But I think, there's still more we need to do to sort of make our voice heard. Yeah, absolutely. So, Gavin, can you give us sort of a regional overview or a snapshot of sort of where you're seeing the cluster-led growth taking shape across the Central South?
Sure. So I mentioned earlier about the kind of the varied ecosystem that we've got, and I think the key kind of the tripartite part of that is marine and maritime. We've got probably 10% of the UK's marine GDP based in the Central South. Alongside maritime and marine, you've got defence, which obviously a lot of people know, the Central South and Portsmouth in particular for defence industry. But the Central South, we've got a regional defence security cluster, which is really important. And then probably the one that is least known about is probably our excellence in space. So the Space South Central is actually the largest regional space cluster in the UK, which is something I didn't realise until we started kind of investigating this in a bit more detail. And they provide end-to-end delivery right from design of satellites right through to the manufacturing, right through to application of that in data. So anyone that uses Google Maps, all the satellite imagery for Google Maps comes from satellites that were built in Portsmouth, designed in Portsmouth, and moved forward with the application and the data being driven by universities across the Central South, whether it's Southampton or across the rest of the region. All of those then equally have their bridge to marine and defence. So you can start seeing that complete circular ecosystem. And I think that kind of really gives us something that we can build on and grow from.
Great, that's a good overview. And then, Brian, if I come to you, the Solent Freeport obviously provides us with a fantastic opportunity to transform our economy and accelerate growth. Can you just give us an overview of what sectors are coming together there, what investment that is unlocking, and what that's providing for our region?
Yes. One of the interesting things about our area, and you see it from some of the photos that have gone up, is that it's quite complicated geographically. We've got peninsulas and islands and waterways, and that makes one of the things that makes it a fantastic place to live. But it's also one of the reasons that we have a problem with finding developable land. And for the clusters that Gavin talked about, their supply chains find it hard to move into the area. And so what the Freeport's allowed us to do is working with some of the partners like John at AGS, and he'll probably talk more about it later, is allowed us to unlock some of that developable land in our region that we didn't have before. And what we're seeing is the supply chains to those sectors Gavin talked about. So we're looking at space, so we're looking some of that in the region that John's looking at. We're looking at maritime, particularly around the ports and docks and on Fawley Waterside. So it's pulling together the supply chains for the things we're already strong in. But a lot of the work in those supply chains was coming from all over the country because there just wasn't developable land locally. So that's really what the Freeport's done in our region, is allowed us to unlock some very complex bits of land that have been needed, have needed some public intervention for probably a generation.
Thanks. And Sarah, as a local authority and from your perspective, what can you be doing and councils be doing to sort of help these clusters come together more?
So I think Great Wolf Resorts is an excellent example of sort of cluster sort of sectors in practice, really. They cited one of their key reasons for choosing our area because of the existing leisure cluster of activities that we had right next to sort of a regional leisure park destination, which has indoor skydiving, ice rinks, leisure centres, bowling, cinemas. So that was one of the key reasons that sort of attracted them to Basingstoke. There would be that collaboration and they tap into that wider sort of visitor economy sector. And it's a great opportunity, obviously, to extend sort of what the Hampshire sort of market visitor economy is really dominated by day trips to sort of outdoor and visitor heritage attractions, to sort of extend those into overnight stays, which then has that knock-on effect. I think another example from what local authorities can do, we have a really successful sort of town centre based employment park, Basing View, which some of you may be familiar with. The council's role there is to really look at where it can best focus its investment and how it can increase sort of digital connectivity. For example, we're working on sort of 5G living labs, creating that innovation space, those spaces for those businesses to sort of flourish, really, where they can network, support those networks through our economic development function, make sure that is that knowledge exchange through sort of events. I think that, there's a role for local authorities on the skills side to obviously foster that talent development that those SMEs and those businesses are going to need, and really make sure we're aligning our local policies so that they're meeting that regional and national sort of agenda, so that we can continue to attract sort of talent and investment into our region.
Thank you. And Gavin, if you can provide us more with sort of the regional overview, what does the investment and development pipeline look like? Are there certain sectors or opportunities you're seeing coming forward?
I'd say it's varied. There's a variety of different sectors coming forward, from housing. We've seen Wellbourne was on the video earlier. Very interesting in Wellbourne, they actually had a closure over Christmas for 7 days to install a box junction in the motorway. So major piece of engineering infrastructure work that carried on and enabled that development to come forward. Many down in Basingstoke, huge urban extension, development housing, new hospital potentially. So there's an awful lot of housing coming forward on urban extensions, greenfield sites, but also city centre, Northern Quarter in Portsmouth. Portsmouth City Council are looking to announce a development partner fairly soon to take forward that site and that area. And Southampton, one of the other big cities in the region, about a year ago, they launched their Renaissance Vision. They've recently launched the prospectus for that. And also one of the sites that was identified in that vision about a year ago is the former Toys R Us building, which is opposite the station, so the gateway to the city. The Southampton City Council have just announced, alongside the partners with the Viva Capital partners and the University of Southampton, they've announced that they've bought that site back and bringing that forward for an innovation district, and be the first catalyst in that innovation quarter. So there's an awful lot of things that are starting to happen, and it takes time, but from those examples, there's delivery on the ground, plans in progress, partnerships being formed. So, whatever stage people want to get involved in the development pipeline there are opportunities across the region.
Great. And John, in terms of Southampton Airport, it's obviously a vital asset, as you said earlier on, for the region, especially in terms of connectivity, employment, jobs, etc. And I know when we supported on the runway extension, the level of passion and love that there is in the community and business leaders and stakeholders for the airport. What have you got planned at the airport? I know you recently got permission for Navigator Quarter. Can you give us a bit of an overview of that?
So Southampton Airport, the airport itself, I mean, it's got huge untapped potential. If you think about Southampton, it's got 1 million passengers. One of our other airports, Glasgow Airport, has got 8 million passengers, but Southampton Airport has got a bigger catchment area. Traditionally, people drive past Southampton, go to Gatwick, Heathrow. For us, it's about unlocking that potential. We've extended the runway. We've got a team out in discussion with lots of airlines looking at base carriers. We've got another team working on a terminal transformation, which will double the size of the terminal. It was built for small planes, it was built for Flybe, small, regular, frequent planes that flew off, not large EasyJet planes. So for us, we need to expand the terminal rapidly, and it's all under. We've got new shareholders. They are hugely supportive of the airport, hugely supportive of the potential. So it's about unlocking that potential. It is hard because airlines don't make decisions rather quickly. So it's been a couple of years to get to the point where hopefully in the next 18 months, that's when we start to see new flights, new destinations, because that's what attracts people to use an airport. They need flights, they need connectivity. So that's underway, and the team are working hard on it. When it comes to Nav Quarter, I mean, Nav Quarter, we did get planning for 960,000 square feet of industrial. It is the biggest employment site left in the region. It's left for a reason. It is really complicated. It's got infrastructure challenges. We couldn't develop it without the support of the Freeport. Creating a Freeport gave us the confidence to go for planning to try and unlock its potential. So we're at a stage where we've got planning. We're now looking at the infrastructure challenges. We've got a business case in with the Freeport, so hopefully we can balance the numbers. But that type of partnership is essential to unlocking some challenging sites, because to open up a site, we have to take a cutting, end the runway, bring into the airport. There's challenges around utilities, national highways. So we're pulling all these things together to unlock that potential. But it gives us confidence that whenever we talk about the site, we get inquiries from major developers, major occupiers, even partnerships with the private sector. There's lots of potential there that gives us that confidence to bring that site to market.
Great, thank you. Just to say, if you do want to ask a question, just a reminder that you can jump on to the Slido, and it's Central South Discuss. I keep showing that I'm going on and offline, so I don't know if we don't have questions or the Wi-Fi is a bit dodgy. So if we move on now, I think we've had a really good snapshot of the pipeline and the fantastic investment opportunities that are coming forwards. I think what would be good to explore now and understand from the panel is what else needs to be done to unlock that growth and make sure we're moving forwards faster at pace. So, Chris, if we come over to you first, obviously as a developer on the ground trying to deliver schemes, it'd be great to understand from your perspective what would give developers confidence that they could move at pace in the Central South.
Well, I think the greatest challenges most developers face, both nationally as well as in the Central South, are all about power and planning. So power availability is a massive constraint on new development, and it slows down projects immeasurably. And I think that is, if you look at the demands of AI, that is only going to get accelerated, amplified. So just the current sort of data center schemes in planning and pipeline have a greater power demand than current peak capacity on the grid. And so I think sort of power availability is just going to be a massive car crash coming down the road, and a huge constraint on development. And so what we need is both a strong national power strategy, but significantly for us, a regional power strategy, which is going to prioritise sites which can deliver growth and bring forward, enable economic growth quickly. Planning-wise, we've worked with exceptional planning officers across local authorities, across the region, but there are too few, and planning is just under-resourced, and it is currently a constraint on development with most local authorities struggling to process applications within timescales. I think given we have a government which is supposedly prioritising growth, actually if that can be coupled with investment to enable growth and actually supporting local authorities to resource these incredibly capable planning departments and teams to work with the private sector and others to facilitate new development, I think that would be a massive plus.
Okay, so Sarah, if we come to you next, what do you think local authorities can do to sort of promote and encourage inward investment?
So I think there's quite a lot local authorities can do. I think, firstly, we can use our land and our assets really effectively. We can take a longer-term approach to make sure we get the right type of investment and development into our regions, and sort of, really think about how that's stewarded, sort of the stewardship approach of that. Manydown is obviously a great example of that. A garden community that can provide up to sort of 10,000 new homes. We've got sort of Urban and Civic in as our master developer. They are on site, starting with the first 3,500 homes at Manydown North. It's very much sort of an infrastructure first, community infrastructure first approach. It's going to be sort of 40% affordable housing. One of the first things they're doing on site is creating a new 250-acre countryside park. So great community benefits as well. And then obviously, the rest of Manydown will come forward, and a huge amount of growth and opportunity on sort of Western Basingstoke around Junction 7. I think, we can be that catalyst to make sure we're connecting, putting our investment into the right places, as I've mentioned before, maybe around digital and sort of connectivity. I think, always look at streamlined processes and make it a bit easier for investors and developers and businesses to come to our region, cut some of that red tape. That's always one of mine. Really try and foster good partnerships. We can't do this alone. We need to do this in partnership. So we need to collaborate, whether that's with investors, it's through sort of the local procurement supply chain, with our schools, our colleges, engaging with those higher educational institutes. And then, I suppose really, again, as I've mentioned before, from the economic development perspective, make sure we're supporting businesses and innovation. We're aligning those skills and the training to meet those industry needs. And I think, we saw the Great Wolf video earlier, but I sort of haven't really had a chance to talk, so I'll jump in now if that's okay. But that is a great example. Over $1 billion of investment into the UK. Great Wolf want to come to the UK with 3 resorts in Basingstoke, Bicester and Bolsover. I am assured there is a lot more market intelligence and stats behind it, rather than just choosing 3 UK places beginning with B. But they're looking to bring a sort of a 512-bed sort of themed hotel, conference, indoor water park concept. They very much are pigging back off our leisure cluster. For Basingstoke, that's over £330 million worth of investment. That relates to over 600 jobs across a wide skill base, from exec leadership, F&B, retail, housekeeping, right through to sort of quite specialised M&E and safety side of things as well. They will be working very closely with the local supply chain. So the gross added value benefit of that, is about 23.6 million into the economy. It will drive overnight tourism, so it will drive up visitor spend in the wider Hampshire area and that year-round economic activity. Businesses in America, particularly where they've opened Great Wolf resorts, have tangibly seen benefits in local towns and sort of trading centres and other accommodation providers on increased occupancy and room rates as a result. And the underlying community benefit as well. There will be sort of day passes. Those will be accessible to members of the public as well.
What stage is that scheme at the moment?
So it's currently going through planning.
Okay.
So we're sort of awaiting a planning decision, hopefully this summer.
Okay, fingers crossed for that.
Fingers
then.
crossed, absolutely.
Fingers crossed. And then, Brian, it would be interesting to understand from the Freeport, are there lessons that can be applied more broadly about how we can unlock growth in terms of better collaboration, coordination?
Yes, I mean, I was going to comment, and it's coming from the private sector as I do. It's surprising probably for me to say this, but we have benefited from fantastic collaboration in our local authorities. So that the complex nature of the zone Freeport means on our board we've got 4 different rating authorities, 2 other councils, the cities and the county. And then just to add to the fun, I've got the chair of the national park and the chap who runs the oil refinery. It's in the middle of the national park. So my job is to kind of keep them all talking. But I have to say, and people were asking when I talked at this show last year about whether the mayoral authority and local government reorganisation was going to upset the Freeport and confidence. But actually, and a number of our leaders are in this room here, I can see, but actually they've cooperated totally in the past, and I have no suggestion that it won't carry on. So although we'll have some government governance to tweak when we have a mayoral authority and a bit of LGR, the region has been very unified because I talked about the complex geography. We all know when we're there which bit's Basingstoke and which bit's Southampton and which bit's Test Valley and Eastleigh. But if you're an investor in the region, it's extremely complicated. So the only way we can actually operate in the south is for all the local authorities to be a bit collaborative about it, because businesses just don't understand some of the regional differences because the boundaries are very old, and that's worked really well. I'd also like to pick up the energy conversation that Chris talked about, because I think one of the things the Freeport's allowed us to do is to make some decisions that might seem strange. I mean, I'm going to talk about diesel, which, you know, you'd think you wouldn't talk about that with the Green Initiative. But as I'm sure you all know, the country's going to need diesel for the next 10, 20, 30 years. We're just not going to be able to generate enough electricity in other ways to replace the power and energy that comes from it. And within the Freeport, Exxon, which quietly sits down on the water side, is one of the biggest refineries in the UK, has invested $500 million in what's called fast diesel technology. But it means that in another 5 or so years, we'll be much more self-sufficient in low sulfur diesel. Because at the moment, most of you probably don't know that the low sulfur diesel that you use is pretty much imported, because we've never been able to make it in this country anymore. So it's interesting that what might seem an unpopular decision for a government to make has actually been made because the Freeport have kind of looked at the big picture with Exxon about it's not sensible to import it for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So we're not shying away from that energy transition to electricity, but it's allowing realistic development in the region because as Chris said, the amount of electricity we need is just not generatable in the short term. I mean, if we have 6 cruise ships in Southampton on a weekend turnover, that's using more electricity than the whole of Southampton. So at the moment, we can plug 1 in, and all the rest have to run their engines. And that's the scale of the problem in our area for energy.
Thank you. John, did you want to sort of build on what Brian was saying there in terms of what you feel needs to be in place around infrastructure, energy or connectivity to unlock growth?
I mean, a lot has been said. I mean, power is huge. It's, I mean, power and the planning process. A lot of people, there is power. People have got power that's hidden away. They've secured in advance of planning. So the government is trying to unlock that. Now we've got planning, we can hopefully get up the sort of the waiting list for power and get certainty, because unless you get certainty, it pushes out your development programmes. So with planning, it's been good. I mean, the planning system is challenging. It's we've had some really good experiences working with like Eastleigh, who have been absolutely fantastic. But it then can come down to things like national highways, where if they don't respond after 7, 8, 9 months and then come back at last minute, that puts a whole development under threat, and you then have to remodel things. And with the Freeport, it gives us both challenges, and the Freeport have always had deadlines to spend funding. They've done a fantastic job getting the government to push that back. But whenever you've got a project that's complicated, it doesn't happen as quickly as what you want, which then means that that funding deadlines are looked at and reprioritised. And so the whole speed of bringing things to market, certainly for really difficult sites, I think certainly that's an area of support that is needed, because I think we got to planning in 2 years. I've known sites that are 4, 5, 6 years, so it is a challenging process to resolve them. If you look at areas such as environment, within it we've got BNG. That's a big burden. Where we can get supports with local authorities trying to unlock certain areas. We want to work with local authorities to make sure that any spend in biodiversity net gain is within the local areas. There's maybe not enough schemes up and running. So for us, it's about being a responsible developer. If we're taking 50 acres of grass out in one area, trying to make sure that the benefit is secured in that local authority area. So there's areas where I think developers, local authorities have to work very closely together to support how we bring things to market.
Thank you. And Gavin, to what extent do you think the Central South has been seen as a single connected market?
So I think this is probably a bit of a plug for Business South that have kind of coined this term Central South, and really the work that they've been doing, bringing the region, as it were, up the agenda, up the profile, creating documents like Prosper, taking the region out to MIPIM, to UKREiiF for the last number of years. All of those sorts of, all those bits of work and events and pressure and effort is really starting to play off, where people are actually coming now to Business South, to the region, and the region itself is talking. There's always been great cooperation between the different local authorities. We've had the Partnership for Urban South Hampshire, then Partnership for South Hampshire. What Business South has kind of brought into that is also bringing the business community together with the third sector and also the local authorities and public sector. So that kind of opportunity presents itself now on a stable platform, and whether that stays as Central South or whether it morphs into Hampshire and the Solent with devolution, that's something that we'll see over the next couple of years. But actually what we've got is a really good tight-knit community and ecosystem. And I think one of the things that we probably need, just picking up on your last point about is there still more to do, probably looking at actually that single point of contact. So Brian mentioned earlier that the geography of our region is complex. People don't know if they're in Basingstoke, Southampton necessarily, if they're coming from outside the region. So actually, one of the things that we're looking at is an Office for Investment. And one of the things that we're proposing is this Office for Investment that gives a single point of contact for the region, and then that can be followed up, can be directed to the most appropriate location, to the most appropriate people in the region, and it gives somebody to follow those inquiries up as well. So that's something that we're beginning to put in place.
Thank you. So we've got a couple of questions on Slido, so I'll jump on to those. Sarah, the first one will come to you, if that's okay. So what investor vision would be a perfect investor for the Central South?
Ooh.
If anyone else fancies picking it up. Then...
God, that is a big question. What investor vision?
So what would be sort of the perfect investor for Basingstoke, for example?
Oh, okay. Well, I think it's always great to attract an investor that is fundamentally going to align with your priorities, your organisation's priorities, and your sort of ethos. So, we are currently out in the marketplace looking for an investment partner to take forward a portfolio of sites across our area. And key to that, it's not just about entering into a partnership, it's about finding the right partner for us, where we can work together long-term, foster those relationships, and really, start to deliver. And fundamental to that is a partner that's going to align to our council priorities and our corporate objectives, really. And I'm sure that will probably be the same for different organisations.
Okay. Gavin, I'm going to give you the next one. What are you most excited about in terms of regional development in the Central South over the next 5 years?
I think it's the opportunity that, whilst there's going to be an awful lot of pain and trouble in the next couple of years with local government reorganisation and moving that forward, I think actually that provides and will give us the base and the foundation on which to move forward, especially then with potentially in 2 years' time having our own elected mayor as well. That will give us something, the ability to shout much louder, we believe.
Okay. Chris, if we just move on now. So from a developer's perspective, what makes now a good time to bring forward a scheme in the Central South?
I think the current supply-demand balance supports new development. So if we just look at the industrial logistics sector, by way of example, through 2025, there was about 2 million square feet of take-up. Currently, there's about, but of which 45% of that was prime stock. There's currently about 2 years' supply in the market, but less than 30% of that is prime. So I think that is supporting the case. Businesses are favouring taking high-quality space, which aligns with their own sustainability objectives. And so actually that sort of balance supports new development. I think it's even more apparent on the office side, where a recent Knight Frank South East report showed that 85% of take-up last year was in new or completely refurbished space. But availability in that particular segment of the market is only about 1.7%. So businesses want to be taking best-in-class workspaces to provide the right environment for employees, and there has been a real sort of supply drought in that space. So if you create those best-in-class workspaces, it will attract the occupiers. We demonstrated that with the scheme in Guildford, Bottleworks, where prior to developing that, rents in the highest rents in the city were £36.50. We've just achieved over £50 a foot on our most recent letting. So people will pay if you provide the right quality of workspaces.
Okay, thank you. So I think, and that's picking up on the question we had on sort of Slido a minute ago about what the next sort of 5 years looks like. So before we wrap up, it would be good to hear from the panel. As we said, we've got LGR on the table. We don't yet have a regional mayor, but one is, on the horizon, and that's really going to give us that ability to collaborate more, have that shared voice, that shared vision, and really make sure we are able to compete on that national stage, make sure we're properly represented and getting the investment that we deserve. Gavin, what would you say are the key priorities to focus on to support growth across Central South? What would you be telling our new mayor, for example?
So we actually prepared a document titled "The Priorities for Good Growth," and that was outlined originally for the mayor to coming in. Originally, it was going to be coming in. They were going to be coming in this year. It's now going to be 2 years' time, but actually, it still stands. And that was picking up what we thought were the key areas to concentrate on. And none of those are a surprise, really. We were looking at things like connectivity, convening groups, and that sort of thing. But one of the key elements that I think is probably paramount is actually that regional spatial development strategy, to be able to start working on that now, so that rather than moving from a kind of district-based local plan system which focuses in on development, doesn't necessarily look as coordinated with transport, but actually starts looking at a more spatially regional approach where we've got transport development, energy needs, water supply, all of those sorts of things actually combined together to work out where the best growth options should be for the future. Starting that work now, so that actually in the next 2-3 years that's in place, ready for the investors to come. Exactly.
Yeah. And John, looking ahead for you, what would success look like for you for the region over the next couple of years?
So for us, it's about increasing connectivity from the airport, bringing our plans to fruition, making sure we've got the airlines, we've got the routes, we've got the size of facilities. It's about unlocking the benefits of the free port, so building on Nav Quarter, generating retained business rates for the free port so they can reinvest. It's about putting the sort of foundations we've put in place now and unlocking them over the next 2 to 5 years.
Great, thank you. And Sarah, when we have that stronger regional leadership in place and a more joined-up approach, what do you think that will unlock and bring that's not as easy to do now in the current state?
So I think that stronger sort of regional leadership through devolution on the horizon, as Gavin's mentioned, it will be that voice, it will be that champion for our region, which will help us sort of really, I suppose, access hopefully some longer term funding opportunities, which will really tackle some of our big strategic infrastructure issues that we need to address. And as a result of unlocking longer term funding, that will help to address some of the viability challenges that certain developments or certain areas within the region are experiencing, which kind of no development probably on a granular level could address from a financial perspective. They're just too big, but collectively it would start to unlock that. And then I suppose from an LGR perspective, again, a real opportunity there to kind of almost join up and streamline the conversation, where it will be that one-stop shop really to discuss those planning, development, infrastructure issues within those new local authorities space.
Thanks. And then Chris, from your perspective, on the ground delivering schemes, what needs to happen, evolve over the next few years to really make a difference for you?
I think I come back to my couple of significant challenges, but I think the combined authorities actually presents a really exciting opportunity in that space. One for coordinated spatial planning, as Gavin mentioned, but also if it allows for efficiencies which enable greater resource where it's most needed within those local authorities. I would also say I would love to see some coordinated regional power energy strategy to support development, given the increasing demands which are going to be placed on it.
Thank you. So we've got 5 minutes or so. I'm not sure how well Slido's working. Did anyone have any questions? If you do, I think there's mics that we can bring. No? Oh, there's one there.
Yeah, thank you. I would just like to endorse what Chris has been saying about the issues with the electricity infrastructure. I'm the leader of Chichester District Council, and we have a significant problem, and that is definitely holding back our regeneration and opportunities for our horticultural industry. And that's a real threat, I think, to some parts of the southern area. And I think we need to have a real push from the key players in that to actually resolve that, because it's not going to help the economy, but in the south and generally in the country. So thanks, Chris, for raising it. And if you need support, just come and give me a shout.
That's great. Thank you. Was there anyone? It's hard to see from here, so I don't know if anyone else had their hands up. No? Okay. So that's that. We'll wrap up for today. I think what's come forwards from the discussion is that the Central South really is not short of opportunity. It's got a real scale and strong clusters, and the opportunity now is, and as we've heard from the panellists, is for us all to continue to collaborate, work together, and obviously with the Mayor coming down the road as well, that's a fantastic opportunity to make sure we're really heard on a national scale. So I'd like to say a big thank you to our panellists. I think we're sort of hanging around if anyone, I know there's lots more that can probably be discussed. But if not, you can go along to the Central South stand at G30, and a big thank you to Business South as well for having us. So thank you.